Alright guys, today I'm ranking all the NPCs in Elden Ring. This is gonna be a big one, so sit back, relax and enjoy the video. Ranking will be roughly based on my sympathy for them, their usefulness to the player, which includes quest rewards, and how much I like their questline, if they have one. Let me first get some special cases out of the way where I wasn't sure how to rank them. All of the finger readers are in F for finger. I like foreshadowing and the little hints they drop, but in my first playthrough it was sometimes too obscure for me, and when I got to the 5th copy-pasted finger reader, I just skipped through their dialogue. The 2 fingers, weird and ugly, F. The 3 fingers, I mean, evil, but they allow us to experience the coolest ending. Not saying it's the best one, it's just the coolest. And their initial cutscene is also cool. Then this whole place has so much atmosphere because it was made very clear how deep we truly are, and it's also isolated. I also talked about this in this video, you can check that out after this one. Honestly, screw it, they can have B tier. All the nomadic merchants are D tier. While it's cool to find them in the most random places, they barely offer anything actually useful. Still, I have sympathy for them with their tragic backstories and stuff, and if you had it in your heart to murder all of them, then you are evil. D tier with Karle being a bit higher because he has some more dialogue, I guess. Ensha is straight up F tier. The only thing you get is a pose. Then he makes a pathetic attempt to invade you, and then you just get some semi-good looking armor, which is cool for dev cosplay builds I guess, but it's really nothing special. Post-boss fight Renala is technically also a NPC. No questline or item rewards, but rebirthing is a core mechanic, which I have used plenty of times because I'll be fucking up my stats sometimes. Also, she gets some bonus points for being a major player in the lore, so take this C tier and move on. Twin Maiden Husks, also technically NPCs. I mean, you can't hate them or anything. Buy stuff quickly and uncomplicated, no talking involved. Also, they are your go-to shop, especially in New Game Plus. So I guess I'm giving them D tier, because other than the shopping stuff, they are really not exciting in any shape or form. Okay, now we can finally move on to some real, non-copy-paste NPCs with unique dialogues and even questlines. Wow! Albus gives us the Halictree secret medallion right, and then pieces out, but honestly, that's fine. It's a key item which we need for the Tennis questline and you kinda feel sorry for him, but his lack of any questline puts him in D. Primeval Sorcerer Azur gives you Comet Azur, which is arguably one of the coolest sorceries in the game, so that's why he gets to be D tier without any dialogue. The lore is interesting and his armor set is nice, but we get that through Selin's questline, so no bonus points here. I could pretty much copy and paste what I just said for Lusat, but I'm putting him in E tier, because his sorcery is not as good and he makes me walk into a cave with a revenant in it. That's more than enough to knock him down a tier, but look, good guy Azur has an own site of grace right next to him, so if you miss anything or want to do the question again you can always teleport back, but in Lusat's case, you always have to traverse this cave, and unless you beat the Crystallian Trio, which is a stupid ass boss fight, you can't even teleport out of there after getting what you need. Bernal doesn't have much of a questline, but at least he has something you can call a questline. First you meet Knight Bernal, who sends you Ashes of War. Not too bad. Later he will join Volcano Manor, and once you've joined too and completed the 2nd contract, you can assist him with his assassinations. This rewards you with the Raging Wolf set and Gami's Fury, which is whatever, but the Raging Wolf set is very stylish. Lastly, he'll invade you in Farm Azula, and defeating him grants you his armor, again not too bad looking, the Devourer's Scepter and the Blasphemous Claw. The Blasphemous Claw can parry Malekith's Black Blade, which got me excited because Malekith is such a hard boss, but for the hell of it, I could not get the timing right, so I just gave up on that and fought him normally. Anyway, I think low C tier is justified here, mostly because of fashion swords. Big Boggart. I didn't know his name is actually Big Boggart, but I love that. Gonna be honest, in my first playthrough I didn't have much sympathy for the guy, because I never bought prawn from him, so naturally he wasn't too friendly to me. But when I found out that this lad has an entire questline and becomes like your best buddy just because you bought some prawn, I was in love too. Good guy Boggart helps you with the Magma Worm fight and warns you about the Dung Eater and sells you a legitimately good consumable. Anything below A tier for this lad would be a crime. Blythe, another fan favorite. He fights by your side in a Bloodhound Ever jail and against Radahn, and he does have an actual questline with lots of locations and dialogue. I can't give him all the credit though, because the major steps in his questline are all tied to run his huge questline. Still, I think a B for Blight is fair. Bog the Seamster. Gonna be honest, not my favorite. The strong part is his story with his mom and his struggle to accept himself. But while that's sad and I like the story and how there's actually a good ending that is kinda wholesome, I can't just ignore how useless it is to do this questline. Rewards for this questline are mushrooms, a gesture, and him altering your garments for free. The problem with that is, this is only available at Bog's current position, while you can alter your garments for runes at any site of grace. And the cost of altering garments is 500 runes. That's like nothing later in the game. I think they should have given Bog a better ability related to garments. Maybe he could have offered you some rare armor set which he managed to steal or alter garments in more ways, but being as it is, C tier is the highest I can give this little guy. Corhin is the less interesting part of the Gold Mask questline. The incantations he sells are meh, and my prayer books all go to Miriel. Credit where it's due, it's a long questline with a lot of interesting dialogue, but the thing is, if I have to find an NPC at multiple obscure locations and solve riddles in order to continue the questline, it should give me at least something useful, right? Well, it doesn't. Until the very end, you get nothing. If you manage to actually complete this questline, your grandiose reward is their armor sets and the Mending Rune of Perfect Order. It's an ending, but it's a reskin ending, so yeah. Brother Corhin gets D tier. Gold Mask is the more interesting part of their questline. And he doesn't even talk. But Gold Mask technically doesn't have a questline, he's just part of Corhin's, so I'll put him next to Corhin in D. D. Hunter of the Dead. A couple plus points here. He shows you Gurang's location and how to get there. He has an actual questline and the incantations he sells you are actually pretty useful. His armor is sexy AF, but you technically get it from Fia's questline, so no extra points here. I mean, a lot of these questline is just part of Fia's questline, and very early into that one he just gets murked. Sympathy wise, it's up to you if you're Team Fia or Team Double D, but I'm Team Fia, so get fucked bro, D for D. I really wish I could put all the Ds in D, but just no. If you help D's bro here by giving him the twin set, he will kill Fia at the end of her questline, so naturally I took revenge for that. E tier. It would be F if he didn't drop the inseparable sword. Dialos. Not the greatest rewards or anything, but a nice story with an entire character arc. Intertwined with Jarvan's questline, but not in a way where one's questline completely carries the other. Solid C tier. Dung Eater. I mean, it's not exactly that I have sympathy for him, he's just funny. That counts too. If a character is evil, they can still be a good NPC, okay? The Dung Eater questline also has an entire ending dedicated to it, which is actually the only ending I never experienced myself because I can't be bothered to collect all those seedbed curses from all over. That is something I really don't like about the Dung Eater and his questline, but what I do like is the sheer comedic value of his existence and the, of course, actually dark and twisted lore behind it. Classic from Software. Edgar. Very short early game questline, but I can appreciate it for what it is. Just a little story about a proud father defending his castle instead of rescuing his daughter, the aftermath of which he can't deal with, and so he turns evil and becomes Edgar the Revenger. Solid. D. Enya. The unique finger reader at Roundtable Hold. While she doesn't really have a questline in that sense, she does have some lore relevant dialogue and you buy all the boss stuff from her. Or from her corpse. D. Fia. You know I love Fia. Not a lot of steps to this questline, but it goes on for a while. She carries Roger's and D&D's questlines and has 2 boss fights, with one of them being good, exclusively in her questline. Since Lich Dragon Fortisex is a remembrance boss, you can get 2 pretty cool incantations, so that counts as rewards. As I mentioned, you technically get D's armor through this questline, you get Fia's set and a reskin ending, so all in all, that's very much enough to get an A. Gideon Ofnir. Well, it's hard to have a lot of sympathy for this dude. As far as I understood, he ruthlessly slaughtered Albenorix in his search for the medallion, but when you're more successful on the path to becoming Elden Lord, he gets salty, tries to stand in your way, and fails miserably. Redeeming factors are that the incantations he rewards you with aren't terrible, and he generally points you in the right direction, giving some hints about lore too. but overall I'm putting him in D tier. With Gostok it's the other way around. While Gideon is more helpful at first and then tries to sabotage you, Gostok first stalks you and steals some of your runes if you die in Stormvale Castle, but if you finish Nefeli's questline he becomes a merchant, even selling an ancient dragon smithing stone. But other than that, there's not a lot going on here, neither questline nor reward wise. D. Kennefight. Funny fort man who turns out to be more than just some random arrogant lord. I think it's so cool how he makes Nefeli the ruler of Limgrave in the end. Like, can you believe it? We actually have a good and promising ending for a From Software questline here. Solid B. Nefeli Lu. Now, finally, let's get to Nefeli, who has the real questline out of the three. I love Nefeli as a character and I like her questline, even though it's complicated AF and I don't know how anyone would get all the steps right without Google. Rewards for her questline are also definitely there, with the Arsenal Charm and the Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones. She's badass, she cares for others and adds depth to the lore of Godfrey, Godric, Gideon and the Elbenorics. Great NPC, S tier. Gowry. To be honest, I'm not even sure if this guy was evil or not. He's revealed to have been a kindred of Rod. Don't ask me how any of that works, so maybe there was some malicious intent behind his actions, but on the surface, good on him for caring for Millicent and telling you Celia's secret. He's mostly just a minor part of Millicent's questline, but he sells you okay spells and incantations and drops the Flock's Canvas Talisman, and as a Faith enjoyer, I can't be too mad at that. C tier. Millicent. I think this is the second longest questline in the game, and goddamn, it's a good one. I loved the journey this questline took me on, and seeing Millicent slowly get better was genuinely wholesome. She can be summoned for a lot of harder boss fights, and while scarce, the rewards along her questline are above average. First, the Prosthesis Wearer heirloom, great to meet some stat requirements. Then, the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, a best in slot talisman if you have the build for that, and finally, a Somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone, the most valuable upgrade material in the game. Or you could be a monster and choose to side against her, granting you Millicent's prosthesis. Yay. I did this in NG Plus because I wanted to have all talismans, but it was not worth that heartbreaking dialogue. Yeah, anyway, this questline is great. Why did the ending have to be so tragic again? S tier. Gurranq. Gurranq is an intriguing NPC who offers decent rewards for bringing him Deathroot. The last reward is more than decent, but try finding 9 Deathroots, nobody got time for that. I love the big reveal and the varying voice lines when you fight him in Farum Azula so much. I might one day make a video on why I think it's so cool, but it would be unfair to give him a high ranking just because of that. It's just a video game you farm this and bring it to this guy thing. But I can't deny the mystery surrounding his presence, and as I already mentioned, the rewards are decent. B tier. Hugh is our blacksmith in this game. He's not useful, he's necessary. But that shouldn't automatically make him S tier. I do appreciate that they gave him some unique voice lines, a tragic backstory and a wholesome relationship with another Roundtable Hold NPC though, so I think B is fair. That other NPC is of course Roderica. Meeting her at Stormhill Shack provides some backstory on the whole grafting thing going on in Stormvale, but it's not necessary for her to join the roundtable, which I appreciate in subsequent playthroughs. Anyway, in my first playthrough she was one of the most crucial NPCs, but if you played through this whole game without summons, then first off respect, and second off that would make her pretty useless. Although progressing her questline at least to the point where she can upgrade Ashes is necessary for Nefeli's questline, which offers great rewards with 2 Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones, and you also would need to Spirit Jelly summon to access the Stargazer ruins, so she's not completely obsolete. Also, I of course like her character, and again, that relationship with Hugh is super wholesome, so she gets a B too. E.g. Another sympathetic blacksmith, super chill guy, also offers a great talisman if you talk to Blight before meeting him. I have no complaints. B tier. Irina and Hayata are the same person, so I'm ranking both their questlines together. And let's be honest, Irina doesn't have much of a questline anyway. After Irina was killed, Hayata took over her body, suddenly craving these grapes, which are actually human eyeballs, and being strangely drawn to the 3 fingers. Very long questline, a decent reward at the end, and I appreciate the hints she gives us regarding the frenzied flame. I would have never figured out how to enter that room if she didn't tell me to take my clothes off. I also like that we get to witness the process of someone turning mad through her questline. Honestly, I really like this one, and I'm going to put it in A tier. Iron Fist Alexander. I can already tell you, this is an easy S. For me, he's this game's equivalent to Dark Souls Sigmire and Dark Souls 3's Sigward, and I absolutely love those two lads. He offers comedic relief with all the pickles he finds himself in, is always happy to see you, and has this dream of becoming a warrior jar, a journey which you accompany him on. Of course you have to kill him in the end, no surprises here, thank you From Software, but at least he achieved his goal of becoming a warrior jar and is proud of himself, which I just love so much. Other than that, rewards for this questline are either funny or very good. What am I saying? Your reward for this questline is talking to Alexander, the Iron Fist. S. Jarbaern. Alexander is the big funny jar and Jarbaern is the little cute jar. I like Jarbaern and his admiration for Alexander, and he helps Dialos find his purpose, which is sweet. No exceptional rewards or anything, but just the fact that he's another talking jar puts him in B for me. Jaren. First off, bonus points for that epic narration which introduces the Radahn festival,
howling at the sky,
and for the outfit. Other than that, he's mostly just a part of Selen's questline, which we'll get to in a second, but I'm giving him some credit for the Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone, because to receive that, you would have to side with him. Still, you can only get to that point by doing Selen's questline, so I think C tier is fair for Jaren. Now on to Selen. She actually has a much longer questline than I thought at first, and I think that's because it starts so late. For like half of the game, she'll just chill in that random basement in Limgrave, until you finally find and receive Comet Azure. Now it kinda gets going. Next, she points you towards Master Lusat, and if you find him too, she'll reward you with a Starlight Shard. After defeating Radahn, she finally moves to the Witchbane ruins, where it gets really wild. Jaren now appears in this room and tells you that Selen is a really bad person and so on. Then you can give the Primal Glintstone to her other body in the basement on the right side of the approach up to Ranni's Rise. Finally, the last step is the fight outside of the Raya Lucaria Grand Library, where you either side with Selen or Jaren. If you side with Selen, you can get cool Master Sorcerer drip, which you can't get if you side with Jaren and Jaren's eccentric set. Then of course we have the tragic ending, but it doesn't feel as forced. She did have no boundaries when it came to experimenting with Glintstone, so I guess this is what she gets. To me, this is a very interesting questline with great rewards, considering that you can only get Founding Rain of Stars through this questline. And then let's not forget all the cool sets and the Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. Also, she's a merchant with decent early game sorceries, so I think she checks all the boxes to easily deserve A tier. Latenna. Latenna has a short but nice story. I like how unique it is that she becomes a spirit at her own will and then accompanies you along your journey towards the Halictree. By bringing her to the Apostate Delict, you help her fulfill her purpose and you get a somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone as a reward. So, not only does the Latenna questline manage to hit you in the feels at the very beginning, it's also a story with a relatively good and hopeful ending, and on top of that, a great reward. In subsequent playthroughs, I love how this questline involves very few steps, because it's one of the lowest effort somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones you can get. Honestly, I was gonna give her B tier because it's a short one, but the more I think about it, the more I appreciate how good this questline is without a lot of dialogue or locations. A tier. Melina. Melina acts as your guiding hand. Every game needs characters like these, even the very cryptic and you're on your own Souls games. She introduces us to the world and explains relevant waypoints or lore. She doesn't have a classic questline, she's more of a passive part of your journey. Melina gets interesting once you've defeated Morgoth and got refused by the impenetrable Thorns. In my first playthrough, I thought that I must be very close to the end of the game at that point, because the Erdtree had always been this destination and now I'm right there. But then Melina hits you with the like to take a new journey and you realize you're definitely not done yet. Then when she starts talking about committing a cardinal sin, I was also pretty surprised, because up until that point Melina always seemed so passive and innocent, but apparently she's willing to do anything to put you on that Elden throne. Finally, at the Forge of the Giants, she sacrifices herself to burn the Erdtree because she has seen how this world is in dire need of repair and she's hoping you can repair it. Wow. What a character. Then of course there's another storyline if you inherit the Frenzied Flame, which she tries to warn you about a lot. In this case, Melina becomes your enemy and at the very end has one of the hardest lines I've ever heard in a video game.
Lord of Frenzied Flame, I will seek you as far as you may travel, to deliver you what is yours. Destined death
While she doesn't have an actual questline and therefore no cool rewards or anything, I still appreciate how she turns out to be much more than just your personal assistant. A. Miriel.
Greetings.
Patches. You either hate or love Patches, and I love him. Especially when you escape one of his traps again and he's in complete disbelief. Patches encounters are always so funny, until they're not, and suddenly turn really tragic. I love his inclusion in this game. Joining the Volcano Manor fits his character so well, and I love how he has this entire character arc of actually caring for Tanith. Questline rewards aren't really noteworthy, but his merchant inventory is pretty okay. Especially gold picket foulfoots, and the recipe for those are nice to have, but even without those I would have probably given Patches A tier. Man, those were a lot of great NPCs. Let's get back to an absolute shit one. Pydia. Pydia's questline is that she fucking dies. Her shop is mid and she's just an uninteresting character. D tier. Well, while Pydia is one of the least interesting NPCs in the game, these next three are some of my favorites. And we're starting off with none other than Rani. Rani has the most detailed, comprehensive, rewarding, interesting and impressive questline in the game. If I went over every step, I'd be sitting here tomorrow, but maybe I'll talk more about her in another video. She's a beloved character among Elden Ring fans and I'm no exception. I would proudly call myself a Rani simp. There's an interesting discussion around if her ending is truly a good ending, and there's some very valid arguments against Rani and her ideology, but I've seen people claim it's a worse fate for the lands between than Lord of Frenzy, and that's just delusional. If anything, Blight and EJ being in her service should be a good sign. Everything that has to do with Rani delivers some of the best, most impressive visuals in the game. Renala's second phase in endless water with the night sky and massive moon, Estelle's boss fight with this beautiful cosmic atmosphere even though it's underground, the Moonlight Altar with its bright rays of moonlight, and of course her ending cutscene with yet another night sky. And those are just some examples. Then let's not ignore how many items and rewards you get for this questline. Many of them are only for intelligence builds, but they are some of the best in the game. Meteorite of Estelle, Rani's Dark Moon, Adula's Moonblade, and of course the Dark Moon Greatsword being the most notable ones. But if that's not enough, there's also the armor sets of Blight and Rani herself, and casually the best summon in the game, all only accessible through Rani's questline. If you couldn't already tell, Rani definitely deserves to top this list. S+. Tanith. Tanith is an intriguing character. From her outfit to this room she can be found in, with a Crucible Knight just silently standing next to her, a very striking image. Anytime I'd get that loading screen I said to myself, man, I need to find that place, and when I did, I was not disappointed. At first I was a little afraid to engage in all these Volcano Manor shenanigans, because it's all so evil and I thought I'd lock myself into a bad ending, but it's way too interesting to ignore. While Tanith gets more fleshed out as a character through Raya's questline, her questline does take the credit for all the assassinations, which you get nice drip from. Additionally, she of course rewards you for completing the contracts, and while Serpent Bone Blade or Magma Shot are kinda trash, Taker's cameo is a pretty good talisman. I'm going to give her a B, because Raya's questline is the more long and interesting questline, but Tanith is definitely a cool character. Raya's questline starts so video gamey, it almost feels out of place for a FromSoft game. Someone stole my necklace, please bring it back! But then it gets interesting. She invites you to a Volcano Manor, and even teleports you there once you've reached Altus Plateau, which is a nice skip. After completing the second Volcano Manor assassination, she will be in this room in her true snake form. She tells you her real name, Zoraya. Now you also learn that Tanith is her mother, and progressing through Volcano Manor and finding the Serpent Amnion sets this whole heartbreaking plot in motion, with Zoraya finding out she was an unwanted child born of a hideous ritual. Quest rewards are not really there, but I appreciate this questline because it's basically you puzzling together the secrets of the Volcano Manor, a place which you have like no idea about otherwise. Also, I like Zoraya a lot as a character and I feel sorry for her, but at least there's a semi-good ending, I guess? A tier. Celavis. What can I say? He's just an asshole. A scheming, devious and arrogant dude who turns people into puppets against their will and keeps them in his creepy basement. If he didn't offer some actually decent spells and the magic scorpion charm as a reward, I'd put him an F. But despite how unlikable he is, his questline is interesting and offers some variation in who you decide to give the potion and stuff, so I guess he can have D tier. Sorcerer Roger. Gotta give him bonus points for being a callback to Big Head Logan, but I don't think Roger is very fleshed out in this game. I think what I like the most about this questline is the Godwin mystery in Stormhill Castle. We don't really get a lot of exposure about the Prince of Death, but Roger at least gives us some. But that's pretty much it. He does have some more lines of dialogue when you progress Fia's questline, and his plan to find the curse mark of death by effectively making you spy on Rani is an interesting idea, but it doesn't really lead to anything. Rani just won't accept you into her service if you mention the curse mark before, but imagine how cool it would have been if you were actually be able to steal the curse mark from her to bring it to Roger. It could have been like an actual undercover mission. Well, but as it is, Roger doesn't bring a lot to the table. C tier is fair, I think. Fobbs is just a random little side character, but that's okay. The spells he sells are bad, but I can't be mad at him. He's just a dude desperately trying to get into the academy, and when you finally make his dream come true by giving him an academy glintstone key, he just fucking dies. What a From Software classic. D. Vare. Vare is another clearly evil NPC, but in a good and funny way. After all, he's the original No Maidens guy, a true legend. Aside from that, he has a decent questline with decent rewards. B. Yura is cool. He warns you about Agil and helps you with Nereus. Then you can help him with defeating the Ravenmount assassin at Raya Lucaria. Lastly, he will be at the Second Church of Marika, where you fight Eleonora after Yura sadly dies. Rewards for this questline are actually really good. The Raptor of the Mists Ash of War, the Nagakiba, Purifying Crystal Tear, and Eleonora's Pearl Blade being the most important ones. Much later in the game, you suddenly meet him again. A miracle! Did our boy get resurrected? No. It's just Chabriri, who took over Yura's body and now tries to gaslight you into inheriting the Frenzied Flame. Fuck you. But my boy Yura gets a B. And that's it. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my rankings. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, bye!